Hello everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith, and in this unboxing video, as you can plainly see, we are going to be unboxing Final Girl. There is a whole bunch of content here that delivered from the Kickstarter campaign. Really excited that this ended up landing for me inside of 2021, as it was part of my most anticipated list of 2021 for solo games. Plus, the game is primarily and only played solo, which makes it even more of a focus and especially of interest to me for this channel. So what I wanted to mention to you is I did do 3 videos on Final Girl during the Kickstarter campaign. Of course, those are with a prototype, so there might be some tweaks to the rules in terms of how the game flows. But if you want to see some gameplay right out of the gates, I'll put a link to all of that in the top right-hand corner right now. It's worth mentioning that Van Ryder Games on their web store does have these components available, so you can actually pick up the things you're most interested in, and this video should help you see what's inside of each of these boxes. And the final thing to note is that in the near future, going into 2022, there is a planned reprint Season 2 campaign going on. Details, I'm not aware of 100%, but I know that that is coming, so you're going to have options either way depending on how you'd like to go about it. Hopefully this video helps you in your decision. Let's go through each of these boxes at a high level and then check out all the components inside them. The very first couple of boxes on top of this heaping stack are the Playmat set box, as well as the Miniatures Series 1 box. Next up on the top left-hand corner there, we have Terror from Above, a small mini expansion to add into the game. Then in the top right, we have Danger Proceed with Caution box. We'll have to dig into that to find out more. And then right in the center, a lore and scenario booklet. Finally, here we have a set of 6 boxes, one of them being the core box on the left-hand side, and then there's 5 additional boxes here that are going to supplement into the core box experience to add and flush out the gameplay, allowing for multiple different environments, different types of horrific enemies to go up against, and of course, a whole bunch of Final Girls to use as a character. And it's worth mentioning that each and every one of the boxes here on screen requires that you have a core box, which is the black box that is now out of the shot. So make sure you have the core box before you start picking and choosing which of these boxes you want to add into your experience, because you may want all of them, you may want some of them, but you're going to need that core box in order to enjoy any of them. The first thing we're going to check out is the core box. Ever wanted to star in your own horror movie? Now is your chance. In Final Girl, you become the heroine of the story. This is a solo game unlike any other that brings many horror movie tropes to life using the innovative and endlessly replayable feature film game system. So when I was talking about those different boxes originally, they're all part of that feature film game system, which again needs this core box. Every second counts as you manage your time and actions in the game. One mistake could mean your death. Will you try to save the other victims or search for items to help you destroy the killer? Play cards, roll dice, and feel exhilaration and the dread in every moment. This core box has primary components of the game. It must be combined with at least one feature film box, so grab this box and one or more of the feature film boxes, and you'll have everything you need to play, since any killer can be played across any location. Adding additional feature film boxes obviously greatly increases your options and provides exciting new challenges. The core box, as well as the 5 feature film boxes, all have a magnetic clasp on the side, keeping it securely closed, and when you open it, it looks like this. Inside of the rulebook, you're going to find an overview of the game as well as how the feature film game system works. You can see that on the right. We're not going to go through every single page of this rulebook, but I will let you know how many pages there are and give you some examples along the way as to how the rulebook is laid out. Here's an example of the setup pages here. You see the setup for the core box is about 1 to 7 steps, and then you grab your feature film box to fill out the rest of the steps to get everything to the table. So it's a combination of the two. Here's an example as to how the rulebook is typically laid out. This is the gameplay section here. So you have a game turn, which is comprised of 5 phases: the action phase, planning phase, killer phase, panic phase, and upkeep phase. There's lots of vivid illustrations throughout the rulebook. You're not going to have a problem understanding what it's trying to convey to you. The rulebook is around 30 to 33 pages. Of course, there's some indexes and some additional information at the back end of the rulebook, filling out those 33 pages or so. There's also this nice summary on the back for the turns, as well as to how you can use your action cards, and of course, the icon references from everything you're going to see during gameplay. Here we have the game board on the left. This is the normal side, and if you want to see the extreme side, you'd flip it over like so. Then on the right-hand side, we have a punch board. Checking out the component tray down at the bottom of the box, you take off this cover, which sits right on top, keeping things all in the places they're supposed to be. And then, of course, you've got things like the killer meeples here. You also have the final girl in purple. You have all these yellow ones, which are the victim meeples. There's a couple of the colors in there for special victims. You have custom dice for the game as well. And then you have these little tracking markers in this bag here. This red one here is the Bloodlust marker. And then there's some cards as well. Let's take a look at the cards that come inside the core box. We have a whole bunch of action cards here all the way through. We'll flip these over to the opposite side and I'll give you a look at each of them. Now, some of you that have watched my gameplay for the prototype are going to be familiar with some of these cards, but of course now they're in their final versions. Doing my best here to keep my thumb away from the bottom portion of the card as there's some smaller text down there. With the core box now out of the way, let's take a look at the feature films. And Hans is actually the enemy that we went up against in our feature film during my gameplay video. Flipping over any of the feature films, you're going to see full artwork on the opposite side as well. There's information pertaining to what's inside because now you see the two characters you get to have as part of that feature film. Plus, you know the killer, which we saw still on this side here as Hans in the background there. And then down the bottom right, it lets you know what environment this feature film is adding into the fray. Remember, all these are mix and matchable, which is really cool. This one here is Camp Happy Trails. Welcome to Camp Happy Trails. Confront your greatest fears in the horror at Happy Trails, a thrilling addition to your Final Girl experience. Choose either of the two included Final Girls, Lori or Rico, and go head-to-head with Hans the Butcher, an unstoppable killer who hides behind an iron mask and bludgeons his victims to death with a massive sledgehammer. Scavenge the camp for whatever weapons and tools will help you survive, including axes, bear traps, and even the keys to the motorboat. It'll take every last ounce of courage to make it home from this summer camp in one piece. The design of these feature film boxes are very cool. As you unclasp the magnet from the side of the box, the entire box lid is going to detach. You flip it over, lay it down, and you have your environment that you'll actually be playing the game on. And if you thought that was cool, the other side of the box also detaches. So the entire exterior of the feature film box breaks apart to make up the components you'll need to use during gameplay. A really cool design choice. Every feature film box will talk about the killer and all the components that are involved with that killer. So if you do want to mix and match things, you know exactly what to grab because you may be actually playing Hans in a different location than Camp Happy Trails. And then, of course, the components that relate to the environment that you're planning on using. The core of the box, the very center, looks like this. It is double-sided. It says Camp Happy Trails on the left, has component storage on the right. And your killer's components are going to be on the opposite side of the box. Slots available there for those. So you've got environment on one side, killer on the other. The next feature film box we'll go through in a moment is all around Creech Manor. So in this addition to Final Girl experience called The Haunting of Creech Manor, it's up to you to save a little girl named Carolyn who has become the target of a malevolent spirit. Choose either of the included Final Girls, Selena or Alice, and try to avoid becoming the next victim of the poltergeist of Creech Manor. Search for Carolyn in terrifying rooms like the attic and a closet. Once you've found her, escape the manor with your lives before it is too late. Carolyn's life, not to mention your own, is in your hands, but will you both survive? One side of the box has the poltergeist, while the other side houses Creech Manor. Here is a look at the environment as well as the killer in a close-up of each of the box covers. On one side of the box, we have the Creech Manor storage, as well as the cards pertaining to it. And on the opposite side, we have the killer, which is the poltergeist. Here's a look at the list out of components for each of them, as well as any special setup instructions and special rules. Next up, we have Maple Lane and Dr. Fright. The suburbs are quiet no more as dreams have turned to frights in this addition to Final Girl experience. In Frightmare on Maple Lane, the notorious dream doctor, Dr. Fright, is looking for vengeance. He will stop at nothing to make the ones responsible for his untimely death pay with their blood. Choose either of the included Final Girls, Nancy or Sheila, and enter the dream world to face your fright. Whether awake or asleep, you'll need to convince your neighbors to let you in their house if you're going to have any hope of surviving the Frightmare. On one side of the feature film, we have Dr. Fright and a new survivor. And on the opposite side, the environment Maple Lane and another survivor. On the left-hand side, we have the board for the killer, and on the right-hand side, the environment board. Of course, the component lists inside the box, as well as the beginning of the setup. As you can likely tell from each of these that come from each of the feature films, in terms of the setups, each one of them plays completely different, which adds a lot of replayability to the fray. Here is Maple Lane's side of the box, and the killer Dr. Fright on the opposite side. The next feature film states there is nothing like a fun family outing to the carnival. Carnage at the Carnival is in addition to the Final Girl experience you won't soon forget. Geppetto the Puppet Master is looking to add to his family, and you and the other unsuspecting carnival goers are just what he's looking for. Choose either of the included Final Girls, a Semi or Charlie, to fight back the fearsome puppets and their evil master. Be careful not to fall victim to one of his deadly traps as you try to make this the carnival's final show. One side of the box depicts the killer as well as one of the characters, and the other is all about the environment, Carnival of Blood in this case, and another character. Here is a look at the inside of both of the covers for this feature film. We have the Puppet Master on the left, the killer, and Carnival of Blood, the environment, on the right. Here are the component lists for both of them, as well as the beginning of the special setup instructions. Additional special rules for both of them appear on the back side. We now move to the final feature film that states the term terrorist trap will be redefined in this addition to Final Girl experience as the gods take their vengeance out on you and other unsuspecting victims in the slaughter at the Groves. Choose either of the included Final Girls, Barbara or Adelaide, to end the deadly retribution being brought by this nasty Avenger. I'm not going to try and pronounce that name. And this individual draws his rage from the gods themselves, and if left unchecked, he and the blood of his victims will be all that is left. Can you stop the mass killer before it is too late? Here's how things look on one side of the feature film box, this one specific to the killer and a new character. And on the opposite side, the last Final Girl as well as the environment Sacred Groves. Here's a look at the inside of the covers for this feature film, killer on the left and environment on the right. Inside the box, you're going to find your component list for Sacred Groves, components for the killer, and of course moving into the special rules going into the backside of both of those. We also have a reference card in the center. Here's a look at the opposite side for all three of these. On one side of the feature film box, we have Sacred Groves and its components and storage. And on the opposite side of the box, it's all about the killer, its storage and components. There was also this card that I didn't notice the first time I opened it, Killer Wrath. That does it for the feature film boxes, although we didn't go through every single pack of cards in each of them, but we will take a quick run through of them all at the end. Here we have the lore and scenario book. I'll show you a number of pages from this. I'll show you a quick flip through this book so you can see roughly what it has inside, but basically the primary focus is on all the different characters, the lore behind them, as well as the killers too, and the environments. You've got scenarios built into here as well, so this is really going to be the major booklet you're going to be referencing. For those of you that are curious about the miniature box, here they are pulled out and with the cover taken off. We'll go ahead and take a look at some of these close up as well. Here's a look at the miniature, the Puppet Master. Here is Hans the Butcher. This is the individual I played against in my prototype gameplay for Final Girl. So every single killer released for the game does have a miniature for it, as well as all the Final Girls. So for those of you that are looking for a little bit more immersion while you play and having actual characters or miniatures represented on the game board versus just meeples, or you're even interested in painting them to really add to it as well, these could be a nice addition. Overall, the sculpts for the miniatures look good. Each of them has a very unique pose across the board. Now, I won't be able to show you every single miniature in here, but this should give you a great idea as to roughly what you're going to expect. A final close-up shot of all the miniatures you can expect to find in this box. Moving on to the playmats, and of course, I love neoprene playmats. If you're looking for a visual bump, a thematic immersion bump, and an organizational boost, you are definitely going to find it here with these playmats. I really like how they're laid out, and they're really going to add to the experience as you play through the game. There are 2 playmats inside that box. Here is the other one. This one will house the killer board, the location board, have everything organized and spots for all of it, which is fantastic. Again, also you'll notice in the background, the actual thematic artwork ties in across both of these playmats when placed top to bottom. And just as a visual, for those of you that are looking to see how the playmats look when they're actually laid out on the game table, you'll see the artwork flows from top to bottom between the 2 mats, which was a nice touch for design. We have 2 more boxes to go through here. Terror from Above on the right-hand side and a box labeled Danger, Proceed with Caution on the left. A cloud hangs over you and the rest of the unsuspecting victims in the area. You soon realize it is no cloud at all and that rain would be a more preferable occurrence than what is about to take place. You watch in horror as the first bird dies and is quickly followed by what seems like 100 more. The screams begin and you snap yourself alert, trying to determine the best course of action. How will you survive this Terror from Above? Now, this is an expansion that can be used in combination with any location, one of which is included in each of the Final Girl feature film boxes. We'll go ahead and take a look through this pack of cards. It's not a huge pack. We've got a whole bunch of terror cards here. Some of these cards are right side up and some of them are sideways. Spawning birds, other rules, bird attacks, how you lose, how you win, these reference cards. And then, of course, it goes into these down here. I think it moves into finale cards. There's a bunch of those. And Bloodlust at the back end. If we flip them over to the card side that has the most interesting information, you'll see things are not necessarily going to be in the right orientation for you guys, but I'll do my best here to flip a couple of them so you can see. The artwork on them looks great. Big time fan of that. Get the setup, special victims, spawning birds, other rules, and then it gets into the cards specifically for this. Terror cards. The final box to go through is this Danger, Proceed with Caution box. This is a Kickstarter exclusive item which will be made available in the next campaign next year, but for those of you that don't want to spoil the surprise, skip forward in the video to where I go through the cards, and then you won't see this at all, and it'll be left as a surprise for you when the game arrives in the future. For those of you that don't mind, let's dig into it. Inside the box, you're going to find a mystery box rule sheet and the Necromonicon, and you'll see it states here you are now in possession of said book. This book is, of course, of unspeakable evil, so you really shouldn't open it. Well, too late for that. Inside this book, you're going to find 2 bone dice. One die has each of the killer symbols on it, and the other die has each of the location symbols on it, along with a question mark. You'll go ahead and roll these dice to decide your fate in terms of which killer and location combination you should play. If you get a question mark, you re-roll both dice. If you get it a second time, you only re-roll the location die. It does say here that overuse may result in uncontrollable addiction to Final Girl. Use this powerful item with extreme caution. On the opposite side, you're going to see all the icons depicted on the dice. This is a really nice additional touch to the game. Of course, you could do this on your own by randomly selecting, but what better way to do this completely random than to actually roll some dice while doing it? And if you are a painter, you're going to probably have some fun painting up that book. Now let's go through all the cards that come inside of these feature film boxes. And that's going to cover all the cards that come inside all of the feature film boxes. It's worth noting underneath each individual tray inside these feature films, once you've gone through the cards and opened things up, there will be a little envelope per each final girl in the game. So keep an eye out for those on both sides of each of the feature films. You're going to want to dig in around these boxes to make sure you don't miss anything. And that, my friends, is going to wrap up this unboxing video for Final Girl from Van Ryder Games. Again, mentioning the fact these are available from Van Ryder Games store. There are certain Kickstarter exclusive items like that Danger box that I showed earlier on, which will make an appearance again in a future campaign going into 2022. So you have different options here in terms of whether you want to grab things right now or wait until later. Hopefully this video helps you decide, as well as the gameplay I've already released for Final Girl. And stay tuned to the channel in the future for an updated playthrough of the game as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're not a patron of my Patreon, I definitely encourage you to do so. We have a thriving community over there, and there's a lot of great perks for individuals that support the channel. Really hope that you like what you see there. Thanks again, and as always, keep on rolling solo.